Now let's talk about Python modules. What are Python modules? If all the functionalities of Python are written into the original Python interpreter, your program would be too big even when your code does a simple task. Your code will include unrelated and unwanted Python codes that you most likely never need. Module is a way of breaking down Python functionalities into simple groups. Developers can then call in only the ones they need when they are writing any program. Similar functionalities are grouped together as a library of functions related to specific use or task. That's what you use a module for. You group similar functionalities to do specific task into a file. If you are developing, for instance, a web application, you will probably need to call in a web module like Django or Flask. You can also call in modules for string manipulation, developing a Windows app. To create a module, create a Python file with a function or group of functions and save it as a .py file, that is a Python file. Open another file and import in, for instance, we created a Python file called test module, and import the test module file so that you'll be able to use the code that the test module provides. So let's test out creating our own module. I'm going to create a file here. I'm going to call it test module. I'm going to call it test module.py on my Visual Studio Code. And I'm going to write in here a function, a greet_me function. It takes in a name and then prints hello name. Now this is a function. I can have list of functions here, functions that does a lot of things, a lot of greeting, you know, taking about whichever thing you want the function to do. Now to call my function, I'm going to click again, create another file. Of course I can do that here, or I can just right click here and do new file. That's if you're using Visual Studio Code. I'm going to create another file. I'm going to call it call module.py. So in call module.py, I'm going to import. That's the command to bring in my module. I'm going to import test module. So it's going to make available this function in this file for me. So whatever, I can actually call the function directly. I can say test module. Of course, I have to refer that I'm calling from test module. I will call greet_me. So I'm calling this greet_me method from my call module. I'll do import test module that has the greet_me method, and then I'll say test module greet_me. So I'm going to say Darren. So if we look at this code right now, you see it's going to print out hello Darren, because that is what the code in test module does. This is test module right here in call module. It imports it and then runs this function. So we use module to divide our code. Stuff that has to do with greetings, I can put it here. Stuff that has to do with Tor, I can put in another code. I can put, if I have a lot of functions that I need to create, classes that I need to create on greetings, I'm going to put them all here. So the only thing is, when I get here and I need to use them, I'm going to call it in this way. And then of course, use any of the class, property or functions that I want to use. So for instance, I can, in my test module, I can create a key, a variable called key, and just put in some numbers. Now I can call that key in my test module. I can print out test module dot key. You see, test module dot key is going to print out that key for me. That key is stored in test module, but I'm calling it here in call module. That's the code that calls the test module. So how does Python know where to call the module? These are the way it searches for it. The first thing it does is it looks at the current directory. As you can see, call module and test module are in the same directory. So it's very easy for Python to discover where it is. And if for some reason you don't have it there, you have it, most likely you'll be having it in another folder because it's a library. It's going to look for it in your environment variable in the Python part where you stored your environment variable. And if you can't find it there, then it's going to look for it in where you installed your Python, the folder you installed your Python, or it's going to use this if you're using a Unix system to look for where your modules are stored. There are several modules that Python provides, and an example is the maths module. So for instance, if you want to bring the maths module, you can do import maths. So all the functions that maths module gives will be available for you because you've imported this module. And you can do whatever you want. Maths module has a lot of functions. You can see all these functions are the maths module functions. We're going to talk about maths module very soon. And you can do whatever you want to do because you brought in maths module. But there are instances where you don't want all the functions to be available to you. You just want to call in a function or class or parameter, a variable in that module. Then you can give it an alias. You can tell it that I'm calling a particular function. Let me give, for instance, we have two functions here. We have this function, we have this function. Let me just quickly maybe write another simple function. Dev simple, not going to take anything, sorry. And then I'll print something simple. So I have two functions here. I have the greet me functions, I have the simple functions, and I have the key functions. Now you would note that the moment I import these and I type test module and I do the dots, you will see it's going to show me that I have greet me, and then it's also going to show me that I have key, then I have simple. These are all the functions that I declared right in my test module. If I don't want to import all these functions all at once, because with this is going to import everything, what I will do instead is import each one, with an alias. Let me comment out this, and this is how you do it. You say from test module, I want to import only the greet me. So with this now, I can do greet me Darren, because I've actually told it that just bring in the test module. Now, if I do this print, if I print out the key, it's not going to see it. It's going to say test module is not defined. There's nothing like test module. It's not going to see it. It was seeing it here because I printed out, I imported everything. But in this example, I only imported the greet me module. If I want to import the key variable, I'm just gonna put comma key. It's still not going to work because it's not going to recognize this. So now I can do just key. See here, we're doing test module the greet me because we did import a test module. But right here, we are doing just greet me because we said test module import the greet me, the greet me function. So I can actually call greet me directly, and I say also import the key function, and I can call key directly here. Let me call it keys. Seems that is conflicting with something where it's looking. So still gonna work out well for me. And if I want to use the simple, I think I called it simple, just simple. So if I want to use the simple, I'm just gonna say simple. So right here, I can just run simple. So it says something simple. So I'm just executing this simple method, this simple function rather, and is giving that. So in the instance of math, import math, we'll import a humongous library of stuff that does cos, sine, blah blah blah. It has a whole lot. So, but if all I need is fabs, I'm just gonna do from maths import fabs. That's all. Then I can then do my fabs in whatever way I want it to be. Sorry, it's math, not maths. I can then run my fabs in whatever way I want it to do. I think I'm gonna print out this. If you want to see all the functions using your interpreter, when you import a Python module, say maths module, use the dir command to see all the functions and the variable it exposes in a list. It does that in a list. So I import maths now, and if I say maths, dir maths, it's going to put it in a list. It's going to list out all the things that it can do. Mode, none, all this pi and all that is what the math module can do. If you want to go deeper, you can say dir, say log. I'll say math.log. If log has some other ones, it's going to show it. So basically, all this one that has underscores are just there by default. Math doesn't have that much to show. But if I want to see what exactly math does, instead of using dir, I'm going to use help. So help will give me the documentation of math.log. So this is documentation. It said log x is going to show me how to write it and all that.